Leaders of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, today staged a walkout from the reconciliation meeting with the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, and also other government officials. The union leaders walked out from the session, which started this evening, as both parties resumed talks over the lingering disagreements which has paralysed academic activities in government-owned universities. But the union leaders did not state reasons for the walkout after 2 hours of deliberations. The Minister of Labour and Employment had promised at the beginning of the meeting that their critical demands would be met. The lecturers were demanding payment of their salary shortfalls, revitalisation of universities in the country, and allowances of ASUU members. Meanwhile, the Minister of Labour and Employment maintains that negotiations are still ongoing and that the federal government will try to meet with ASUU's demands before Christmas so as to allow affected university students return to school in January.
There is nothing like walkout. The satisfaction is a union leader, so if he doesn't get 100%, he might not be smiling. We have agreed on implementation and given ourselves some program of work, what you can call a work plan. But the only difference now is a question of days.
Before Christmas.
Yeah, that's our target as government, to conclude the discussions before Christmas. So that at least if students who are at home, they will have some hope of resuming in January. And those who have missed the exams this time can also have hope that the first week of January they go and complete the exams.
Meanwhile, leaders of the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics have directed members of the union across the country to continue with their ongoing industrial action, which they began on December the 12th, until they're able to reach a compromise with the government. The leaders gave the directive after a closed-door meeting with federal government officials in the nation's capital, Abuja. The national president of the union, Comrade Usman Dutse, says the government has again failed to address their demands and therefore asked polytechnic lecturers and students to continue to stay at home.
We have met with the government officials and we have discussed the issues thoroughly, and it's not possible for us to resolve completely in this meeting. So other meetings will follow up. There's going to be other meetings that will come up. All the issues were discussed. All of them were discussed. But like I told you, they cannot be resolved. We cannot resolve them all now. So we have agreed that we are going to meet again. The issues are, we have the issue of the NEET assessment. Then we have the issue of release of the Polytechnic Act, approval of the Polytechnic Act. Then we have the issue of the Country's 15 areas. We have the issue of scheme of service. And we have issue of non-payment of salary in states institutions. Then we have the issue of victimized members. After they are victimized in some institutions. So these are the major issues we have on the ground. Then there is the issue of the renegotiation of the 2010 agreement. So these are the major issues that we discuss. But there are others, but these are the major key ones that we discuss.
National Assembly workers under the aegis of the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria today flagged off a 4-day warning strike to press home their demands for payment of salaries and better working conditions. The workers barricaded the National Assembly complex, preventing anyone from gaining access. And they say the warning strike will lead to a total shutdown of activities if their demands are not met. The strike is coming about 2 weeks after a protest which prevented federal lawmakers from sitting. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to present the 2019 appropriation bill to a joint session of the National Assembly on Wednesday, December the 19th. Our correspondent, Terry Ikumi, reports.
Members of the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, PASAN, National Assembly Chapter, barricade the National Assembly, preventing anyone from gaining access to the complex. The police, Nigeria Civil Defense and Federal Road Safety Corps are on hand to prevent an escalation and ensure free flow of traffic. One of the protesting staff urges his colleagues to play by the rules.
Since we are not picketing today, all we are doing is strike. It is only our members who are not allowed to go in. because every other Nigerian reserves rights to go into this parliament.
Then they moved to shut down the electricity and water supply in the National Assembly complex, but are faced with some resistance from the contractors handling the utilities.
We have staff who we are manning this power station. Unfortunately, since the assumption of office of the clerk to the National Assembly, he has contracted all this work out, leaving our staff redundant. Where you have capable staff who should render their services, what is the reason for hiring contractors?
They eventually succeed in cutting the power, forcing some other staff to exit the complex. The strike is coming nearly 2 weeks after members of PASAN prevented federal lawmakers from holding plenary, and 2 days before President Muhammadu Buhari's budget presentation to a joint session of the National Assembly.
If you are not a member, you can come into National Assembly. Like the members of the National Assembly can come in. The president can come and present the budget. But the services that we render, which makes the National Assembly or the Parliament work illegal, will not be given. So that may be the one that will affect the presentation of the budget.
Meanwhile, the clerk of the National Assembly had written to the Inspector General of Police in a letter dated 16th December 2018, alleging imminent threats to security of lives and property in the National Assembly. In the letter, the clerk urges the IGP to beef up security in the National Assembly in view of the President's budget presentation on Wednesday, the 19th of December, as he questions if there are other reasons for the strike other than labor issues, alleging that the leadership of the National Assembly had already resolved the issues with the leadership of PASAN. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the National Assembly has responded to the protest of the striking workers. The spokesperson of the House of Representatives, Mr. Abdulrazik Namdas, says the Minister of Finance has been summoned to explain the delay in the payment of the workers' wages. Mr. Namdas fears that the 2019 budget presentation by the President to the joint session of the National Assembly may be in jeopardy should the workers refuse to call off their strike.
We decided to invite the Minister of Finance, and the report will be late tomorrow, so that they will get to hear. At least the Minister of Finance will not tell us lies. She will tell us what has actually transpired, the releases, and the releases not only on them, all the releases as far as his 2018 budget was concerned, they were asked to give us the releases, and they have clearly stated the releases. So we will make Nigerians know. So it is the staff will know that we are not just telling lies. We are not being economical with the truth, and that was why we took those steps. I think what we are saying is that the legislature and we in the National Assembly are really concerned. We cannot do our job without these members of staff. Truly. Some of them are even very experienced. So if you come, some of them have been in the clerk of certain committees. They also educate some of us as to activities going. So we cannot do without them. So if they have issues, we should be in the position to be with them. But again, we are in democracy. They should not hold us to ransom. They should not hold the whole president from presenting a budget. The budget is the budget of the nation. Mr. Shehun, we represent the entire country. And therefore, if you stop the budget from being presented, we are likely to run into a constitutional crisis.
Now let's take another look at the issues involved. Joining me live from Abuja is the National President, Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, Bala Hadi. Thanks a lot for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you very much.
All right, so the crisis has been brewing for a while now, but what do you have to say to people who say that the workers are just trying to hold the National Assembly to ransom with this action and this 4-day warning strike?
No, we are not trying to hold anybody to ransom. The leadership of National Assembly knows that we have exercised enough patience over these demands. They started in January, precisely 25th of January. We had written a letter demanding for those our entitlements to be given. They have been lingering since 2010. That is 8 years down the line, and nothing has been done. The letter of January was not attended to. Then we wrote another reminder in September, calling attention to the issues we raised. In January, nothing was done. In November, we wrote another letter, which will have been the final later. Yet nothing was done, and we were under pressure from our members that we might have compromised. That is why we didn't care about the demands were made earlier, which necessitated us into calling for Congress. That Congress resolved that we should give a 2 weeks ultimatum to the leadership to meet our demands. And before the 2 weeks ultimatum, we put in another action in form of warning, which is the picketing, and we started on the 4th of December. It was to last for 3 days, but the National Assembly leadership intervened and then asked for our understanding to enter into negotiation, which we did on that 4th. 5th and 6th we discussed, and we have a good faith in the leadership of National Assembly, and we expected that by now those our demands will have been met, but okay, unfortunately they have not been met.
Ask you,
so that is why we decided to embark on the action. Actually,
let me just ask you so we can have a two-way conversation. I know you've talked about the fact that perhaps your demands were not met and that's why we're here. But are you looking at the timing of what's happening, being as all eyes are now on the presentation of the appropriation bill that the president is supposed to do on Wednesday? How do you think what you're doing, either barricading of the entrance or downing tools, how do you think that would affect that process?
We didn't barricade anywhere. Our actions are only affecting our members. As per the presentation of the budget of Mr. President, we didn't plan to stop him from presenting the budget. Neither did we have any plan to stop members from National Assembly or any non-person member from getting access to the National Assembly. We didn't plan for that. But
yes,
our
you didn't plan for that.
As we said earlier, will be withdrawn from the members.
You didn't plan for it, but it did happen at some point about 2 weeks ago when the House could not sit. And so you saying that you didn't barricade anywhere, that's a little bit something that we're going to look at. But then just listening to the spokesperson of the House of Reps earlier, I mean, he said that there could be a crisis, a constitutional crisis, if the president isn't able to present that appropriation bill on Wednesday, though you said you're not planning to stop him from doing that.
Yes, we are not. Even the picketing we didn't stop anybody. Our actions were restricted within the lobby of National Assembly. And on that day, we had meetings with the leadership of National Assembly on 3 occasions. That is on the 4th of December. So if we stopped members from gaining access into National Assembly, we wouldn't have had the meetings we had. So I don't think we are stopping anybody from getting into National Assembly, be it a member of the National Assembly. They are our bosses, so we couldn't have stopped them from gaining access to the building. Even members of the public who render some essential services like cleaners, bankers and other contractors, we are working within the National Assembly. Even today we allow them access. So we don't stop non-members from entering into National Assembly.
All right, National President of the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, Bala Hadi. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and being here on the News at 10 tonight. Thank you.